one of the most powerful tools we have in chinuch bonim, in educating our children, is a visual aid that the child should see. Once the child sees, already it goes into the heart, and the child makes an impression. For example, on Leil Shabbos, when you come back from shul, and the child sees the same as the Malachim do. When the Gemara says in Shabbos, Daf Kuf Yud Tes, a person comes back and two Malachim accompany a person, and they see the house is tidy, and the neos are lit, and the table is Masudar for Shabbos. So one Malach turns around to the other Malach and says, let it be like this the following week. And the other one says, you're quite right. He agrees with him. The child picks up on this scene of spiritual delight. It really is. The child feels it. Leil HaSeder. The child sees the preparations which are made, that the table is literally a Shulchan Malachim. And he feels, Hallelujah, Abdei Hashem, V'lo Abdei Parah. He feels it. He's part of the mood. It gets straight into the heart. Kol Nidre. You walk into shul on Yom Kippur, it doesn't take much to realize. Everybody's dressed in white. And people are saying Tfilas Zakah. I remember when I was young, I used to go to Gateshead for Yom Kippur, just taking a look in the Beis HaMedrash and seeing the Rosh Hashivas there, at Leib Gurvitz and the Moshe Shmuel, you feel it's in the presence of Malachim. It makes an effect. Tisha B'Av is a major casualty in the Luach. Why? Because it's very hard to build up a picture. It's almost impossible. You are there, the child isn't there, and no one has really seen. It's a little bit like the moshel of the Eben Ezra, of the farm boy who married the princess from the castle. So whatever he does, he can't please her. Why? Because he doesn't know what she needs to make her happy. He's never seen. So how can he make her happy? It's too difficult. He's never seen it. I remember once speaking to a Hagon HaTzadik, Mordechai Zuckerman. I was close with him in Givat Shol. And I asked him once, how do you get the message through with Dugmas, with Chinuch Bonim? He said, there's only one way. The most important way is Dugma, is an example. You can do it on Shabbos. You can do it on Leil HaSeder. But it's very hard on Tisha B'Av, because you weren't there, and the visual impression doesn't get in. The child doesn't pick up the message. Let me show you from the Pasuk. Listen to the Pasuk. You've heard it before, but listen to it this way. Al Na'aros Bovel Shom Yoshavnu Gam Bochinu. Why did they cry by the rivers of Babylon? Zochreinu es Tzion. But they'd seen Tzion. They asked them, Shiru Lanu Mishir Tzion, play us the song from the Azorah, from the courtyard. Eich Noshir Hashem. Alad Mas'eh. Imesh Kacheich Yerushalayim. Why are they saying, if I forget Yerushalayim? Because they'd seen Yerushalayim. That was the great sorrow. Chazal explained, Me'igra Rama lebira amikta. It was going from like a high tower to a deep pit. The splendor, the glory, the kedusha, the tower of the Beis Hamikdash against the chains and the cruelty of Bavel. It was. That's why they said Tishkachenu Netzach. They weren't. It was only 70 years, but it felt like that. Because they'd seen Yerushalayim, and once they'd seen it, they were taken in, and they knew any scene that you show us, it's not going to be Yerushalayim. I was thinking to myself, just looking at the Peirim, you know, they say one of the most beautiful places in the whole world are the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. It was the most beautiful scene. Why didn't they say what a beautiful place we've come to? No. Nothing is as beautiful as when I saw Tzion. So however beautiful the scene might be by the rivers of Babylon, it's not the same thing, because they'd seen it. What's missing with a visual aid? What's not there? I'll give you an example. Have you ever been to a levaya where you have no idea who it is and you don't know anybody? I used to live on Sorotskin. I used to walk to the Mir Yeshiva. I used to walk past Shamgar. So very often I got caught up in a levaya. Everybody was crying. You see the sight all the time there, coming out of Shamgar. And I would walk with the levaya, but I wasn't affected. Why wasn't I affected? Because I didn't know the person. I had no idea who it was. It's a tragedy. It is a tragedy, but not for me, because I didn't know who you're talking about. Ever been to a chasna where you don't know anybody? I remember I once went, a caterer asked us, we were going to use a certain hall for a simcha, so the caterer said, come to a chasna we're making on Monday night, and you'll taste the food. So it was a wedding. I went to the wedding, and I felt terrible. So I was sitting there enjoying the meal. Everyone was dancing around, singing to the chassan and the kala, and I had no idea who they were. So I thought to myself, I must dance once. I went once round. I was exhausted after one because I didn't know who it was. But I felt I must dance with the chassan. And there in the hall, if you go to a chassan of someone who you know, you can dance around for 10 hours is not enough. You never feel tired. If you don't know the person, one circuit round and you're tired. You go to a levaya, you don't feel, what's missing? The lave. The heart is missing. How do you bring the heart back? How do you get caught up the Zachrenu es Tzion? And that is the mitzvah of Avelus. Because if you don't know it, you need a koyach hatzil, a vivid imagination. When you have a vivid imagination, you don't need it so much on Leil HaSeder. Why? Because the child sees in front of him, like the Rambam says, Chayav Odom Laharos es Atzmai, Ki'ilu Hu Yotza b'Mitzrayim. You can feel it. Why? Because of all the preparations of the table and the silver and everything that's brought out, the child feels. He imagines coming out of Mitzrayim. It's a clever father. He does it in a wonderful way, and the child feels Ki'ilu Yotza. You feel it on Yom Kippur. Why? Because the imagination doesn't need much. It's very hard on Tisha B'Av. I will almost go so far as to say the mitzvah of Avelus can turn out to be nothing else for the child but atzvus, depression. What a miserable day. You don't eat, sit on the floor, can't listen to music. This has gone on for a while, 3 weeks, 9 days. It's not Avelus, it's atzvus. But with an imagination, it can move from being a mitzvah to a mitzvah with hergish, like Leil HaSeder and like Yom Kippur. But it needs a koyach hatzil. And with an imagination, it moves into the heart, and the heart is alert. That's what the pasuk is saying. B'zochreinu es Tzion. L'maisa, I think that's exactly what the Netziv says in HaMikdavar. Each of the Yomim Tovim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, has a lashon of Atzeres. Shavuos Yadua, everybody knows it's called Atzeres in the Torah. It also says by Pesach and Sukkot, Atzeres. Why? It says the Netziv, La'atzor kan. Stop here, and before you leave and go home, think of what you had here, and then go. That's the purpose of Atzeres, according to the Netziv. You look at HaMikdavar, think a minute, what did I get out of the Yom Tov? I'm seeing Oila Regel, seeing the Kruvim, seeing the Kohanim, seeing all the Avodah of the Yom Tov. That's the purpose of Atzeres. Atzeres is to capture the moment and put it into the heart. And that's the Koyach Hatzil. And that's the lave, and that's the way it works. And then it turns from being Atzvus into Avedus, because you think about it, you know about it. So what do you need? You need scenes in your mind, especially with a child, to transplant those scenes into the imagination, and then it becomes a mitzvah of Avelus, and you're feeling something. I thought of a few scenes, how much time we have, but as much as we have, to think about some of the scenes of Yerushalayim. Every city has a certain atmosphere to it. I remember someone once told me that he'd never been to England before, and first time in England, he said as soon as he got off the plane, he came out at Heathrow Airport, he said he came into London, he said it struck him, all the hedges, all the bushes are neatly cut. Everybody's walking around prim and proper. Everything looks so straight and correct. He said to me, That's English. No, London is proper. The policemen wear a helmet. The bushes are trimmed. Everybody. It's like correct. That's England. If you go to New York, what's the feeling you ever come out of Kennedy? What's the mood you feel as soon as you come out of Kennedy? The minute you come out of Kennedy Airport, it's always the same whenever I go there. What's the feeling? First thing you see, everybody's rushing. It's a mad rush. I was thinking to myself, I always used to think, that's why it's called the Belt Parkway. When you come out, you belt out of Kennedy, you belt into New York, everything, rushing. Why? Because time is money. Money, guilt, make more money. And the rushing is for money. It's the atmosphere of New York. It's an atmosphere. If you go to Los Angeles, what's the atmosphere when you come out of Los Angeles at the airport there? Everything is very laid back. People like in coloured shirts and long hair. No one rushes out of the air. It's like mosey along. It's easy. It's laid back. It's the mood of the city. Now, what's supposed to be the mood of Yerushalayim? We say on Monday, Yefei Noif, Mesois Kol Haaretz. Yerushalayim is supposed to be the happiest of all places. The Medrash at the end of Parshas Pikudei brings down that they built two meimos of Rabbi Yochanan, that they built outside Yerushalayim a kippah shel cheshbonos, like a hall of accounting. And if anybody had a tzora or stress or an anxiety, you go there first and then you come into Yerushalayim. Because Yerushalayim is not a place of tzora. It's not supposed to be a place of anxiety. It's supposed to be a place of mesois kol haaretz. The atmosphere of the city gives over an atmosphere of tremendous happiness. There's a pasuk in Zechariah where the Navi describes, not now, but what it's going to look like. Chayama Hashem Tzavokos. Oid Yeshu, listen to the scene, imagine the scene. Oid Yeshu Zakenim Uzakenos, old men and old women, B'Rchovos Yerushalayim. V'ish Mish'antoi B'Yodoi Meiroiv Yomim. You'll see, you do see that to some degree around Yerushalayim. Many old people, old men and old women. U'Rchovos Ha'ir. Yimolu Yolodim V'Yolodos. And the cities will be full of boys and girls. Masachakim B'Rchovos. Like a scene of great happiness. It's not a scene of making money. It's not a scene of prim and proper. It's not a scene of just laid back casual. It's a scene of kedusha, of mesois kol haaretz, a place of where you come to grow. Pasuk says by the Haftarah we read on Shabbos Chazon, Yerushalayim Meleosi Mishpat. The Gaon says the gematria of Meleosi is 481. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, there were 481 Batei Midrashim. The Gemara in Baba Basra, Daf Kof Aleph, where they made all the children come up to Yerushalayim, but Yeshua ben Gamla. Why did they come up to Yerushalayim? Because children would see Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah. They'd see the Kohanim. You'd see the Gedolei Torah. On the Beis Hamikdash was the Sanhedrin. You'd see and you'd feel Torah. It's an atmosphere in the city of Torah. Supposing you came up at the time of the Bikurim, the Mishnah at the end of Bikurim, Perek Gimel. If you were there between Shavuos and Sukkot and you saw an unbelievable crowd coming in from, I don't know, from the Negev, from the Tzafon, from the Golan, and a cow was decorated and a Chalil in the front, and they say, Anshe Haifa, Ba'asem L'Sholem, and all the Anshe here, the Umnius, Bali Umnius would close their shops and come and bring them into Yerushalayim. It's a great simcha, great kedusha, tremendous Torah. There's an atmosphere inside the city. We have to add a point which goes into the scene, into the whole imagination of what Yerushalayim looked like. The Gemara in Yoma, Daf Tes, explains what brought about the Churban Bayis Rishon. Says the Gemara, Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayos, and Shvichas Damim, Bayis Rishon. And surprisingly, the Gemara brings down what was the Gilui Arayos. It's not what you think. And the Gemara explains girls who dressed up with too much eyeshadow, too much makeup, too much perfume, and they put the perfume in their heels, that is called Gilu Arayos, the forcing a boy to look at her, forcing priestess. That's called in the Gemara. It's not relationships which are forbidden. Gilu Arayos is a lack of tznius in Yerushalayim. If you look in the Gemara, unbelievable thought that making yourself look attractive so that the men would stare at you. That's called Gilu Arayos in Bayis Rishon. So we have to add into the picture maybe what you don't see today. Besides the crowds, and besides everybody coming up to Yerushalayim, is there will be tznius as well, because if not, that's not Kedushas Yerushalayim. It's all part of the scene. Move on a bit. Move onto Har HaBayis. What was the scene on Har HaBayis? Supposing you came in with your child, and you came in from Sha'ar HaMizrach, from the Ezus Noshim. So you see in front of you the 4 chambers, Lishkat HaEitzim, Lishkat HaVit, Lishkat HaShemen, the Nozir, and the different Lishkat. And in front of you are the 15 steps. You can walk up the 15 steps. 15 Shir HaMalos is all for Ezras Yisrael. At the top of the steps was the Pinchas HaMalbish, the chambers where the Kohanim chained, and then there was like a narrow alleyway, where not more than about 3 or 4 feet, which was called the Ezras Yisrael, and then another 3 steps going up, each one of a Chetzi Amma, and you could see from there the Kohanim. There's one description which is given throughout the Gemara, in Shabbos, in Menachos, in Yuma, continually. The Gemara turns around and explains, Kohanim Zrizim Heim. I remember hearing from the Shlomo Brevda, Zecher Tzadik V'Chol, much of what I'm saying comes from the Shir which I heard from him, but he explained in a beautiful way, what is the meaning of Kohanim Zrizim Heim? The Gemara in Menachos, Daf Nun Hey, explains that when they made the mincha offering, which was made of flour, the Kohanim would use mayim poshrim, lukewarm water. In reality, it's a major hazard, because you're not allowed to turn the mincha into chometz. If you use water which is warm, immediately it will turn into chometz. Says the Gemara, why don't we make a gezerah on the lisha, on the aricha, and the afia, of never to use it, because you're over on 3 lavim. If it becomes chometz, and all the way through there's an issur of chometz, why not? Says the Gemara, because Kohanim Zrizim Heim. So why are you using warm water? Says the Gemara, because it's yofela dasoiles, yofela mincha. It turns out better if it's used with mayim poshrim. But why? There's a hazard. Maybe you'll turn out into being chometz. No, Kohanim Zrizim Heim. Asks the Gemara from the Gemara Pesachim, Daf Lamed Vav, but the Maisa, why can't you use the same by Pesach? No, you can't. Why not? Because in the mokum of Zrizus and the Kohanim who Zrizim, there we are sure, we are guaranteed it won't turn into chometz. But by Klal Yisrael alone, it's not enough. And that's why when we make chometz, we use cold water and not warm water. The Gemara asks the kasha, so why not by lesisa? Lesisa is they used to soak the grains before they cracked them and ground them. So you soak the grain also in warm water. That doesn't need to be done by a Kohen, it can be done by Yisrael. If it's done by Yisrael, you have a chashash of chometz, because the Yisrael is not a Kohen. So the Gemara, no, don't worry, because it's a mokum of zrizos. So even the lesisa, the soaking the grains, can be done with mayim poshrim. Why? Because Kohanim Zrizim, in a mokum of zrizos, they're affected by the Kohanim. You see the Kohanim. It makes you zoriz. Maybe we should explain what the word zrizos means. It doesn't mean speed. It's a mistranslation. Zrizos means enthusiasm, conscientious, cautious, but keen. Like the expression they use in English, more haste and less speed. That's zrizos. Kohanim was zrizim, old men running around on the courtyard, no shoes, all dressed in white beards. You see the scene, it's zrizos. What is the zrizos? You put that into your imagination, you realize this is something special. A scene, if a child would see that, you could take the child into the Ezras Yisrael and you could see the tzafon of the Mizbeach Nechoshes. You could see it on the right hand side. If you look onto the chotz of the Azorah, you can see the place where they do shchita. You're in the Ezras Yisrael, the Kohen goes up another 3 steps, but you can look and see the mokum of shchita. Imagine the scene. I don't know how many a day, hundreds maybe. A person would bring his korban. What type of person? who would come there? Person who had done chayvei chatos, of which there's kares b'mezid, bring a korban chatos. The person was over on a mitzvah saseh, he would bring a korban oilam. Osham tolui. The person wasn't sure whether he did an avela. A chayla who was misrapeh, brought a korban toida. Korban shlomim, a woman who gave birth, a person who went overseas, over hayom, he would bring a korban toida. They would do what's called smicha. Smicha is a lotion of vidui b'kol alev. Imagine a child watching a person standing there. He had to turn his head to the ma'arav. He faced Safa and turned his head to the ma'arav, to Kodesh Kodoshim, and was mevadeh b'kol alev. Imagine a child seeing that. A child sees a person doing vidui b'kol alev. It affects the zrizus. That's a chelik of the zrizus. It's not. It's the conscientious approach to avodas hakodesh. That's what's missing in the imagination, which is part of the whole scene on Har HaBayis. We forgot actually a scene. If you take the child up through the Ezus Noshim, as you go up the 15 steps, you'll hear music. Underneath the 15 steps were two large halls where the Leviim trained for 5 years with the Kelim Menagim. They trained underneath there, and you could see the Kohen, the Leviim, 5 years to train in order to play an instrument on the Azor. You saw the zrizus of the Avodah. Maybe we should add a beautiful description at the end of Talmud Nishchak. The Gemara brings down that Agrippas HaMelech wanted to know how many people came up for Korban Pesach on Yud Daled Nisan. And they counted the kloyos, and they came to 1,200,000. Meaning there's no Korban Pesach without 10 at least. So there must have been at least 12 million people around there on Har HaBayis. And the floor was full of blood. The Shechita Korban Pesach, full of blood. A Kohen who's Oved Avodah with any kesem of blood on his begodim, it's possible. Avodah was psula. So the Gemara brings different manda'omas. Maybe they wore red on Erev Pesach, so they wouldn't show the blood. And the Gemara brings another raya. Maybe they made itztabos, little platforms, which the Kohanim ran, dodged from one to the other as they would do it, taking the blood. Havos Adam. Imagine the scene. The child sees the scene. In the Siddur of the Ivets, it's brought down that two vassals, like two ambassadors, came from Rome to see the Avodah of Yud Daled Nisan. And they watched as the Shechita was done to the Zrikas Hadam, and you have Havos Hadam. And all they said they saw is a line of silver, or a line of, you never saw the Keli. It was holding the dam, it went so fast, and they had to take the mole and pass back the empty. They passed like that. It took them 3 months to train without spilling a drop. Nothing but if it's spilled, it's possible. Imagine the scene, a line of silver and a line of gold, because they had different lines from the Mokum HaShechita to the Mokum HaMizbeach. These are scenes. This builds up the lake. This builds up the whole Avo and Zrizus for Avodas HaKodesh. Less Mandapolig and the Nisim, which you would see there. If you want to look it up in Yom Daf Kof Aleph Amud Aleph, the Mishnah brings down the Mishnah from Pirkei Avos of the Asara Nisim Shenasu L'Abeseinu B'Beis HaMikdash. Imagine 1,200,000 Korban Pesach. Not one fly was ever seen in the Beis Mikdash. It's an unbelievable thought. Never ever did meat ever go bad. It could be a day of rain and wind. Adayan, the pillar of smoke, went straight up. These are scenes of Nisim Geluim. The Gemara brings down the two Ikar, and there's no more. And the Gemara brings down, whenever you would bring a korban oilas oif, you took off the feathers and took out the insides, and the Kohen would take it out and throw it on the floor, and you would not see it again. It was absorbed into the floor. Every day, a Kohen came out with a tray of klicheres, of yesterday's kelim, which held the blood. It's dam of kodshe kodshim. You can't use it again. It's nivla inside the kli cheres. So what they would do is a kohen would come out every morning. I don't know what time, but if you were there on time, you could see it. He would come out with trays of kalim, and they would drop them on the floor, and they would nivla into the floor. It's a Gemara Kaf Aleph, Amud Aleph in Yuma. Every day that happened. Okay. You see these scenes, the impression is unbelievable. And realizes that it makes an impression. Child goes back and tells his father, tells his family and friends. You know what I saw? I saw the Kohen Gadol. I saw the dam. I saw things. That's where the lave comes in, and that's where the whole passion for Zrizus and Avodas HaKodesh is. But that's what the Gemara says in Baba Basra to Kafala. That's why they brought children to Yerushalayim, to see all this, to see the Talmid Chacham, to see the Sanhedrin. This is missing in our Avelis, which goes into the imagination, which is part of Imeshkach Yerushalayim, Zachrein West Tzia. This is part of the Avodah. But I want to take one particular scene. I remember Rav Shlomo Zecher Tzadik Livrocha used to bring this out in the most beautiful detail. Simchas Beis HaShoeva. The Gemara brings down in Sukkot Daf Nun Aleph, Mi shelo yira Simchas Beis HaShoeva lo ra Simcha b'Yom. The Rambam, at the end of Hilchos Lulav, describes the scene, but Rav Shlomo brought out a kasha, which is a beautiful kasha. Says the Rambam, how was the simcha? Hecholil makeh, the flute, and the nagain bekina, the navolim, the metzaltayim, with cymbals, with drums. Kol echad echad b'kli shir. It's a tremendous simcha. The Rambam brings down that every Yom Tov has simcha, but the Simchas Beis HaShoeva was a simcha yeseva, something more, something much, much more. And anybody who could play, shu yodeh lenagin, umisha yodeh bapeh, v'roiktin, umesapkin, umetapchin, and they would jump up and down, umefazazin, umevorchin, umekarchin, kol echad ve'echad, and they would jump up and down. But the Rambam adds another nakuda. Mitzvah laharbois b'simcha zu, aber v'lo hayu oisin amei ha'oretz. The kol misha yirtzeh. It's not for me or you. Can't join in. Ela Gedoylei Chachmei Yisrael, the Rosh Yeshivas, the Hasanhedrin, the Hachasidim, the Azkenim, the Anshe Maisa, Heim Shahayu Meraktin, Umesapkin, Umenagin, Umesabkin, Avol Kol Ha'om, Ha'anoshim, Ba'anoshim, Kulam Boim, Lir'ois V'lishmoya. But you can't join in. You can only watch. Now why? What's the reason why? Remember when my children were little, so I used to take them to the Simchas Beis HaShoeva. One of my children, we could never ever find him when we wanted to go home. So we used to say, you know where he is? Look for the Rosh Hashiva. He would always go, a 7, 8-year-old kid would go and hold the hands of the Rosh Hashiva and dance around with the Rosh Hashiva on Simchas Beis HaShoeva. He liked to go and dance with the Rosh Hashiva. He used to find him dancing with the Rosh Hashiva. Can't do that here. So stand at the side and watch. You can't join in. Why? What's the reason why? The Ritva on the Gemara in Sukkah Daf Nun Aleph explains that the Simchas Beis HaShoeva is a Simcha she'ena heimena. There's nothing comparable. It's a Simcha, says the Ritva, of Olam Haba. What does it mean? The Gemara in Pesachim brings down a Maisa of the son of Yeshua ben Levi, Yosef, who fell ill, and in our terms we would say he became clinically dead. He died. He revived, and his father asked him, what did you see when you saw Olam HaEmes? So he said, Abba, I saw Mamash Olam Hafuch. I saw those who were Yikorim are Kafuyim, and the Kfuyim are Yikorim. Rashi explains. The Yikorim are the wealthy people who sit at the front, who are known for stature and importance. Are Kfuyim, are really unimportant people put at the side. And those who are unimportant are made as Yikorim. Said Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi to his son Rabbi Yosef, Olam Boru Cha'isa. You saw the real world as it really was. Meaning, what we see in Olam Hazeh is Olam HaSheker. You think, not Talmidei Chachamim, But you see people who have great stature and given great name and given great honor, but Lamaisa probably in Olam HaEmes, it will be the opposite. The Zohar brings down on the Pasuk in Yisro, for Kol Ha'om Royim Es HaKoilos, says the Zohar, that at Sinai there were Tchumim, and Shurim. Not everybody sat together or stood together. There were rows of people, Lefi HaMadrega, must be very embarrassing. But you didn't just stand there and watch and makabel the Torah. It was dependent who you were and what Madrega you were on. Why? Matan Torah. Matan Torah is a different misgeret. It's not, you can't just stand there and watch. Lefi HaMadrega, you will be close or far. And on the Pasuk, V'chol ha'om royim es hakolos, says the Zohar, and the Gaon says the same thing as well there on the Pasuk in Aderes Elyon. Lefi HaMadrega hu ro'o, who lost stand. It was according to who he was. There's a Gemara in Tainis. The Gemara says, Omar Rabbi Elazar, Osid HaKodesh Baruch Hu la'asos mechoil HaTzadikim in Olam Haba. There's going to be a circle of Akida for Tzadikim. V'hu yoshev beineihem began Eden. The Gon Shalom is in the middle. V'kol echad ve'echad, it's a circle. V'kol echad ve'echad, mare be'etzvoi. He points to the center and says, V'omar b'yom hahu hinei Elokeinu zeh, Elokeinu zeh kivinu lai, zeh Hashem kivinu lai. Nagila v'nismacha lai. The Mefarsh of the Maharsha explain, what does this mean? In a circle, what you see is not what I see, because I see it from this angle, and you see it from this angle. You're seeing different scenes. When you say Zeh Hashem kivinu lai, it's not what you're saying, because you see a different angle. That's in Olam Haba. Zeh Hashem kivinu lai, what I worked on for 120 years in my life, in Gan Eden, that's what I'll point to and say, that's what I saw, because that's what I worked to see. That's Olam HaEmes. Olam HaEmes is exactly as you planned. Zeh Hashem kivinu lai. But I planned, I anticipated. That's what I thought I was looking for. It's different. Each person according to who they are. Said Reb Shlomo, beautiful diuk. Why weren't the Hamoin Am allowed to see Simchas Beis HaShoeva? Because it's Lifnei Hashem. It's on Har HaBayis. It's Lifnei HaKodesh Kadosh. Lo, ze lo kamo Simcha Shalanu. Simcha Shel Bochurim. Everybody joins in and everybody. Lo, ze lo kacha. It's a simcha of each person Lifnei Hashem, and only the Talmidei Chachamim. Think a minute what that does to a child who sees great Talmidei Chachamim, but he can't join in. It creates in a child a tremendous integrity and emes. He realizes you have to be there, and I'm not one of those people. I would like to be there, but it's not for you. That integrity is a tremendous growth of emes in a child, because he realizes those who are in the middle are different. They are Ovdei Hashem be'emes. That's what the Rambam means. That's a tremendous